Ever since a baby, I've been trying to get away, trying to lock in the guap, trying to block with the pain. I'm a blind little boss, I'm on top of the game. I've been plotting a lot, now I'm tossing your bait. Yeah, my pops got caught, didn't lock them away. My mom fought hard 5 jobs in a day. I'll be dropping the box and I'm copping the pain. We off to the stars, to a tropical place. Ooh, yeah, I'm spitting it heavy, the mission is steady. Your bitch is a jelly, I'm ditching the petty. You're digging for pennies, I'm itching and ready. I open my heart when I listen to Shetty. I'm bold like a boss, but I'm little like Debbie. I know it's your boss, I got Richard and Getty. I'm holding the guap and I'm whipping the Yeti, yeah, Kari can play with advanced moves. I'm fucking my girl and her man too. I'm taking the ball like Durant do. My soul is the one that I can't lose. I soak up the sun like a sand dune. I'm holding up love with the bamboo. I'm rolling the blunt by the candle. Taking the game, running it back without taking a drink. Yeah, I'm the one and I'm making a wave. Rolling the blunt and I'm blazing a J. I'm escaping the brain, go straight for the cake. I'ma take to the bank, not taking a break. I'm made for the race, I pray for the day. I wake with a bake in the greatest state.
Welcome back, everybody. I'm Jay. He's Maddie. This is Yankee and the Brit. Monday night post game, but for Maddie Tuesday morning. So,
yeah. So for me, it's 6:30 over here, which is like actually quite a nice time to wake up in terms of I might actually get shit done today, which is interesting. A different way of looking at things. I could have all of my shit done by midday. And then I can nap around midday and be ready for then Christmas Eve as we go forward. So it's Christmas Eve for me already. So Merry Christmas, Jay.
Merry
Christmas to all of you.
Stupid Yankee question. Do you guys use the term noon?
Yeah, noon, but not I don't personally, but people do.
Okay.
I would always say midday.
Yeah, because that's what I hear in the That's what I hear in the movies, right? Like in the TV shows. So that's I'm like, I wonder.
Other question, right? Do you guys use quarter past and quarter to?
Yes.
Right. Okay. Like so many times I've like spoken to people, and it's like, or it's quarter to, and they just don't understand. Like I've had to start saying like 6:45 or something like that, and that's so frustrating.
I hate to be this guy. It's the younger generation. It's literally some of the younger generation can't even tell clocks the time on a regular clock. They need digital.
That's so poor. That's so bad. But when you think about it, like, so my generation, we learned how to tell the time through analog clock, but now really all you need is digital. But anyway, that's going off topic here.
All right, last stupid Britain American question. Do you guys still teach cursive writing?
I don't. Like when I teach, we don't teach cursive writing. I think there's some classes in primary school in like year 1, like the very first years where you have to learn cursive.
They don't do that here anymore.
All right, okay. Yeah, I like cursive writing though. It's faster. It's a faster way of taking notes.
It was dumb. It was dumb across the pond questions by the Yankee and the Brit. All right. Anyway, we just got done watching the Packers kick the shit out of the Saints.
Yeah, just our first lockout of the season, 37 points to 0 and
to 0.
To be honest, it didn't even feel that close as we were going through. But yeah, Jay, how much of a threat now are the Green Bay Packers to the NFC title?
Okay, so the Packers are a good team. So I don't want this to sound like I'm shitting on them. But you literally just beat up the backup junior varsity team for the Saints. So you can't take too much away from that game. But the Packers are playing really well. And it'll be a big test when they play Minnesota this next week.
Yeah, I think that's the test that we're all waiting for, isn't it? It's Minnesota coming up. Like with the Packers, I see them. We have a saying, and it's called flat track bullies, which is like, yeah, you look great when everything's going your way. You look amazing, but how do you deal with adversity in that one? And Green Bay have some really good wins, but recently they've been beating up on bad teams, and they're good when they beat up on Like they're good when they come up against bad teams. Like that first half against the Seahawks, I thought was very impressive. That was actually the thing where I thought was the most impressive, where Green Bay came up against the Seahawks and they just ran the ball down Seattle's throat. Real power football. And I think with Jordan Love, that's the way to go, because that's how you meet Jordan Love's inconsistencies. So Jordan Love's inconsistencies are obviously in his throwing motion. Okay, if he only throws 20, 30 times a game, the inconsistency is lessened, but you also still get his amazing splash play, third down, getting pressured by the blitz as well. So I do think they're a threat for the NFC title. Let's find out in this next week where they're at. Jay, we were quite Spencer Rattler positive at the start of the season, thinking that's actually a really good pickup from the Saints. How does this game make you feel about Spencer Rattler?
Here's the problem. Like, I don't know what to think. Rookie thrown into the fire. He's got no fucking skilled players out there to help him out. I mean, everybody's injured. The whole fucking team is literally injured. So I don't know, like, can you judge the Saints off of this game?
Yeah, I mean, you can. You can judge them off their body of work for the season. Like the Saints aren't good, but it's difficult.
Right, but I mean the players into like a Spencer Rattler. Can you judge him because Olave's out, fucking Kamara's out, Hill's out. The list just keeps going.
Yeah, it's really difficult to evaluate Spencer Rattler, especially up against a good team. Like the Packers are a good team. When we're criticizing the Packers, it's not because we don't think they're a good football team. It's, can they win the NFC Championship? Like, can they win that's the grade that we're marking the Packers on when we're being a bit harsh. Like, they're a really good football team. I'm still Spencer Rattler positive after this game. I still think there was elements there where I was like, okay, if you had any semblance of an offensive line, if you had any premier weapons, then you would be fine. Like, you would be really able to do this. Like, if he was even at a team like the Panthers, I think he'd be getting similar production to Bryce Young. Like that level is where I'm at with Spencer Rattler. And I think his temperament has been really good as well. Like, a lot of the stuff for Spencer Rattler since he came out has been personality, was his struggles when everybody watched him in QB1 in Netflix, and like his temperament wasn't great there. And then coming off that at college, like having to transfer and those kind of things. I think his temperament has looked good for the Saints. He keeps coming back to the well. He keeps on throwing the ball. He's not afraid to get in there. And I think that's a real positive for Spencer Rattler.
Yeah, I agree. I like Spencer Rattler. Even if, like we said, where he was drafted, even if he ends up being a career backup, then it was a good draft pick, right? But it's too early to judge these kids. Like, even the top talented guys, like Rich Gannon, Kurt Warner, Sam Darnold, Baker Mayfield, like, they've all like had to have this road where they need to grow. And we're talking about a guy that's first year and been put into some pretty shitty situations.
Yeah, definitely. And look, he didn't have a chance in that game. The defense couldn't stop. The defense couldn't stop the Packers. They had 10 minutes, I think. Yeah, 15 minutes more in terms of time of possession. That's basically a whole quarter of football more. They're 3 for 3 on fourth down efficiency. They didn't give up any sacks. Like, they ran for 188 yards. They made 5.9 yards a play. I don't know what you expect the rookie quarterback to do there when the defense just can't stop anyone. So therefore, you can't assemble a run game. You can't get anything going. And also when the Saints have no weapons. So,
and with Spencer Rattler, I would say I liked his demeanor better than I like Caleb Williams' demeanor when shit goes wrong. Like, I don't feel like at any point Spencer Rattler's been ruined, even though he's had the shit kicked out of him. Where I'm not saying Caleb's ruined, but I do think sometimes, like, man, it's taking its toll on Caleb right now, and they better fix this quick next year, or it could go south fast for a real talented kid.
Yeah, more on that. More on that later
That's a
on.
team.
But yes, so the Saints get shut out by the Packers in a really early morning game here, late night game there for you. The Packers are now on a really short week, here as well. But Jay, it was an amazing week 16, some really, really top football games. I thought this was my favorite week of the NFL so far this week. I thought all the matchups were great.
And it created some maybe big overreactions.
Yeah, definitely some big overreactions from us. So, guys, we're going to be talking about the best games of week 16 for us and reacting to those. Those games include the Commanders, Eagles, Ravens, Steelers, Seahawks, Giants, Cowboys, and Buccaneers. We then move on to our week 16 overreactions, which is always a fun segment.
Hey,
so stay tuned for that.
I got a bone to pick.
Go on.
You just called the Vikings the Giants. I just want you to know that, and that really, that really hurts my heart because there's levels to this shit, and they ain't even close to the same level.
Yeah, I'm sorry, man. That should be. You should consider that hurtful. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to insult you like that. I'm gonna use the claim that it's. I'm gonna use the claim that it's a 6:45, and I'll just take that as a way to get out of that one. We're also going to be going through GMJ, where Jay asked some questions.
Just like any question or any team you could have fucking did, but then it had to be the Giants this year. Yeah.
GMJ, where Jay goes through some questions that I want to ask GMs in the league. We've got our Week 16 awards, and then we have our Christmas game previews, followed by our Week 17 best bet. So stay tuned for all of that goodness to come. Jay, let's go to the Commanders versus the Eagles in an awesome game. Jay, was this game lost once Jalen Hurts left the field for his concussion?
Yeah, let's be real. Kenny Pickett is complete cheeks. Like, he shouldn't even be a backup quarterback in the NFL. He is cheeks. I know that people can say, oh, I'm just a hater if they've watched this for some years because I've never liked Kenny Pickett. But it's not like I have a personal vendetta against the guy I don't even know. It's just I don't think he was very good coming out of college, and he got drafted in the first round, which I thought was dumb, which I feel very vindicated that he's not even on that team anymore. And then we watched him play, and I even hit the group chat, and I just put, Kenny Pickett is ass. Like, that's all I even said in the group chat.
Yeah, I think with Kenny Pickett as well, like, it is just important to realize that any other draft class on either side of the ones he was in, and he is at best 4th round, 5th round pick, like, was he a better prospect coming out than Spencer Rattler was? I don't think so. Like, I don't think he has the natural talent that Spencer Rattler has. So for him to be a 1st round pick was amazing. I mean, to say the game was lost when Jalen Hurts went out, I'm not sure that that's particularly fair. Like, the Eagles have created this super team roster with an amazing defense, an amazing running back, the best offensive line in the league. But Kenny Pickett was particularly bad. So I don't think the Eagles should feel like, oh, no, our season's over because we're not going to get the 1st seed because we've just lost to the Commanders. No, like, Hitman in our group chat. No, go on.
Smiling ear to ear when you said they lost because, you know, the Vikings own their own destiny now, but we'll get to that later. But yes, thank you.
Yeah, no, I'm feeling pretty good about the Eagles. I was feeling pretty good about the Eagles' loss when I came out of the Latvian carol service and I saw the scoreline. I managed to catch the last 2 minutes of the game live. I've been back through and watched it since then. But the the Jalen Hurts, Hitman can feel very vindicated because Jalen Hurts clearly does make a big difference to that team. Jalen Hurts is really important to them. And I never said he wasn't. I just said, how good is Jalen Hurts otherwise? He kind of reminds me of Tua, like the offense is just completely built around him as well. So well done, Jalen Hurts.
Well, when it comes to you and Hitman, I don't think you guys really need a reason because it's the Cowboys, Eagles. So any reason to take a shot back and forth will just happen. With Saquon, I mean, they had a shot to win because Saquon Barkley is that fucking good, right? But it's really hard to beat a team, especially, I know they don't have the ton of talent, but with Dan Quinn, and all you got to really do at that point is stop Saquon because Kenny Pickett can't even throw an accurate pass. I mean, it becomes very simple to play the game. And they still almost won that game without Jalen Hurts. Let's not pretend. But that was the best thing that could have happened for me personally watching that game. Not that Jalen got hurt, but that they lost. So I was like, but also on the other side, I don't want to take away because another reason why Jaden Daniels is Rookie of the Year.
Yeah, another reason why that could be where Jaden Daniels just takes over CJ Stroud of last year, right? Like, I don't want it to be recency bias or anything, but this could be the best rookie season of all time. He might be the most complete rookie quarterback that we've ever seen come into the league with his scramble game, his accuracy, and his acumen.
And he wasn't crying on the sideline like somebody just died over a knee injury. I'm just saying.
I know. We'll talk about that when we get to the Texans game, but that was crazy scenes in that game. Absolute madness. What was weird about this game, Jay, was that we were talking last week about how the Eagles actually win in a way that you're not expecting them to, where their first quarter is terrible and then they make up for it in the second, especially the third and the fourth quarter. In this game, they scored 21 points in the first quarter. They were up 21-7 at one point. 21-0? Can't remember. They were up at least 21-7 at the end of the first quarter. And then they gave up 22 points in the fourth quarter. Jay, what happened to this stellar Eagles defense?
They were on the field a lot. Like that's part of the problem, right? They were on the field a lot, but also it's hard to contain that offense of Washington and scary. I mean, come on, like just plays that were being made. Take the Scary Terry play, right? Like catching the end zone, like that, or right before the end zone, and then still gets in. That dude is ridiculous. And Jaden Daniels dropped that over his shoulder like it was a fucking handoff.
Yeah, ridiculous. Like ridiculous combination being built up between the two of them.
Could you imagine
as well?
Saquon Barkley being on this Commanders team?
Yeah, that's not worth imagining, really, for camp. I think what would be interesting is if you took Jaden Daniels and put him in the Eagles team, he would just blow everyone away compared to like what Jalen Hurts does. And Jalen Hurts is still a top 10, top 15, top 10 quarterback in the league. And I just think Jaden Daniels would just like absolutely blow people away in this Eagles offense without even really needing to. I think Jaden Daniels is incredible. A five touchdown game there, but also a five turnover game as well, which is crazy. So the Commanders managed to win this game in the final drive with a negative time of possession of about 13 minutes, but that's mostly down to the first half, and a negative turnover differential of 3. So the turnover differential was 3.
Jaden Daniels had better receivers at LSU.
Yeah, definitely. And I just think looking at the Commanders, like they're a couple of weapons away. Look, The real thing to take away from this game, right, in my opinion, is the Eagles win this game 9 times out of 10. Like when you just look through the whole game, you look through the flow of the game, everything, it's the Eagles win this game 9 times out of 10, and this was the one that they lost. So I don't think the Eagles should be too upset about the loss, but the Commanders should be buzzing about this win because it just signals something totally different for their franchise. And it just signals again that Jalen Daniels is incredible, the guy. And to be honest, when he got that ball back after throwing the interception, when he got that ball back for the final drive, there was no doubt in my mind that he was going to score a touchdown on that drive. And that's just where he's got to in the NFL, especially against what is still, in my opinion, the best defense in the NFL.
Yeah, it was a great game. It was exciting to watch, and it made me warm and fuzzy inside. So,
Jay, it basically seals the Commanders. Well, I'm pretty sure it does mean that the Commanders are going to the playoffs. What can the Commanders do in the playoffs for you?
I don't think they can go to the Super Bowl, but I definitely think they could upset somebody. It's that defense. And also, when you get up against the real top defense and teams in the league, like Jaden Daniels doesn't get hurt. Do we really believe that the Commanders still win that game? And then also, they don't have enough weapons to have a shootout with a team that has a good defense.
Yeah, and I know everyone's just going to be saying like, but you were just talking about the game where they've done that, and it's like, yeah, but 9 times out of 10, the Eagles win that game. Like, and again, 9 times out of 10.
Is it even the same game if Jalen Hurts doesn't get injured? Like, that's kind of the thing, you know?
Exactly.
Because there's passes that Kenny Pickett should have made that Jalen's going to make, right? There's passes in that game that almost anybody, maybe even Justin Fields, makes, and Kenny Pickett misses.
Yeah, there's also the Devontae Smith drop, which would have just completely iced the game as well there. There's just so many things that happened in that game where it was like, okay, the ball is bouncing the Commanders' way, and that doesn't take away from the fact that how much they've improved since even when the Commanders and the Eagles played the first time, where the Eagles beat them by 8 points. But the Eagles completely controlled that game from start to finish in that 8-point win. That 8-point win wasn't that close. In this game, like, it always felt like the Commanders were around, even when they were 21 points to 7 down. When they came out for the second quarter, it was like, okay, the Commanders are still there. The Commanders are still around. They can still win this game. So it doesn't take away from that. It's just the Eagles win that game 9 times out of 10. And going into the playoffs, I think if those two teams met again, which it does look like they're on a collision path for in the second round of the playoffs, maybe? No, first round of the playoffs. Yeah, first round of the playoffs, because the Eagles look like they're going to be the second seed. The Commanders might be the ones just creeping in there at the end. Still got some seeding questions to go.
Yeah, because the Packers should finish ahead of them, and so should whoever, the Vikings or the Lions.
Yeah, exactly. So I think the Commanders going to Philadelphia in the playoffs, I wouldn't expect. Like, I'll be picking the Eagles in that for the win in that game going forward, even despite this as well. But the Commanders are dangerous. They're a horrible team to have in the division because I actually really like the way they play football. I really like how they are, so it makes them difficult to hate them as much as I should do, considering they're a division rival.
We live in wild times because you could have a 14-win team going on the road in the playoffs.
Yeah, that's absolutely insane. The top of the NFC have gone crazy this year. Jay, moving over to the AFC, this was probably the game of the AFC for me as well. The Ravens went up against the Steelers, and the Ravens handled the Steelers, basically. Jay, is this Lamar Jackson's best season in the NFL, even though he's not going to win an MVP award for it?
Yeah, I love the way Lamar's playing and the way he's developed as such an elite passer on top of his run game. I mean, what Lamar's doing is absolutely amazing. I think what really stood out to me in this game, though, was the offensive line protected him, which gave him time, which killed the secondary of the Steelers.
Yeah, I think you've just answered all three of my questions there for this show. So it was, what's happened with the Steelers secondary, and are we underrating the Ravens offensive line? Because as I was watching that game, I was just thinking, oh my, like, normally when you watch the Ravens, you're so fixated on Lamar Jackson, Derrick Henry, Zay Flowers. I've been forgetting to watch the thing that is creating the holes for Derrick Henry, the thing that is giving Lamar Jackson the time to get the ball to Zay Flowers down the field, and that's their O-line. Their O-line is actually really good, and everybody is just completely overlooking that fact when you watch them. And when you go up against the Steelers, what we've seen over the past 2 weeks now is if you can stop that defensive line, their secondary isn't good enough to keep up with you. And Zay Flowers is also an animal. They actually kept Zay Flowers relatively quiet for most of the game, and then there was that huge play downfield. So if you look at the box score, then you'll think that the passing game was more dominant than it was. The reason that the passing game wasn't actually that dominant is because Derrick Henry ran for 130 odd yards by himself as well. So it didn't need to be that dominant. But the Ravens are dangerous, but the AFC is a crazy division this year because it feels like the Chiefs don't look dangerous, but have only lost one game. So it's ridiculous anybody saying that they're not. The Bills just stumbled against the Patriots. They still came out with the win, but they stumbled against the Patriots. But they look dangerous in other games. And then the Ravens look incredibly dangerous. So, yeah, this Ravens team is incredible.
Okay, so the Bills should have lost that game. Let's be real. Like, they really got blessed into it. But you know what that is a sign of to me? And people are going to be like, oh, what happened? Blah, blah, blah. Why is it when teams play the Lions the next week, it's a fucking problem? Football's a problem the next week.
Yeah, even with the way that the Lions, how injured the Lions are now, this Lions hangover is still there as well. We should start looking into that more when we do our picks. Did team play Lions before? Okay, they're not going to cover the spread.
Yeah.
Basically just looking into that. But yeah, I thought Drake May was phenomenal. Jay, the Steelers offense, I'm just going to say that I don't really know what's happened with the Steelers, but I do know what's happened with the Steelers. Jay, George Pickens is missing. How can one guy, one wide receiver in particular, make such a difference to an offense? When you look at them, they're just not as threatening. Even lined up on the ball, you can tell that they're not as threatening a team without George Pickens. How can one player make such a difference? And do you think when George Pickens comes back, does that Steelers offense go back to what it was a couple of weeks ago?
Yeah, it helps because he gets doubled, which means they're draping a safety over the top of him on every play, which pretty much means that defense, every play is playing single high, which without the other safety in the run down to stop the run, right? So now it just opens up the running game for Najee Harris. And then once that running game gets going, that play action is nasty. And the Steelers' offensive line is at their best when they're run blocking. And that's why play action is so good, because that's still a run blocking scheme. And then you got Freiermuth who can get open, and you got George Pickens who can just go up and get the ball if you get in trouble.
Yeah, and the Steelers' offense doesn't work without the down the field threat. And the big down the field threat with George Pickens isn't, because Austin has made some down the field plays because he's fast, right? He's fast, but that only really works on blown coverage. Like, there has to be a blown coverage. So, okay, you might get one blown coverage every game, and then that gives you your one down the field play every game. George Pickens doesn't need blown coverage to make down the field plays. George Pickens wins 50-50 balls and tracks the ball incredibly well, which means you have play action, you spread it even further, and it means that the slowest good running back in the NFL, Najee Harris, can do what he does, which is go up against a lighter box and win physically. He's not going to outpace people, which is difficult when you're in a more compact box as well.
And Austin gets one-on-one coverage when Pickens is there. They can't
exactly.
hang
Austin,
a safety over the top of both of them.
Yeah, and Mike Williams as well. And Mike Williams is also a massive down the field threat, especially if he's one-on-one because of his catch point and those kind of things as well. So George Pickens really does make that offense tick. And it's been crazy, like, watching the Steelers for the past few years since George Pickens been there and watching how afraid quarterbacks have been to just seem to throw the ball to George Pickens. And Russell Wilson doesn't have that fear. Russell Wilson just launches the ball to George Pickens, like in double coverage, and George Pickens just comes down with it as well. So, yeah, the Steelers, they can't be that wide receiver reliant going forward. They either need to draft another wide receiver who can do a very similar job, or they need to work out a way to do something on the offensive side of the ball there without George Pickens. And the Ravens look incredibly dangerous. But it was a good, it was a good game, but the Ravens just completely controlled it for me. Jay, another good game that felt like it was totally controlled until the very end of the game, which I imagine gave you another heart attack, was the Seahawks versus the Vikings. Just before we talk about how great Sam Darnold was and the Vikings are you a little bit worried about the amount of passing yards that the Vikings give up when it comes to big games?
Not at all. The only thing that I'm worried about with this Vikings is, can we get a first down to put the fucking game away when all you need is a first down to put the fucking game away? And I love Kevin O'Connell, and I know you want them to eat their timeouts. I get that. Play action that motherfucker on first down. Pick that up. And now, they only got 2 timeouts left, and they got to call one on first down now. Now, with the 1:40 left, even if you want to run the ball all 3 times, it leaves them with 20 seconds. Just pick up the fucking first down. That's the only thing. No, because one, the Vikings, if they can hold you to I'm not even trying to be a dick, funny with this, they can hold you to 24-ish points, they're going to win most likely. And people pass a lot because they can't run. So it's that now, and the Vikings, they're the only team in the NFL who have a turnover in every game for their defense, have forced a turnover in every game. And they just keep intercepting the ball.
Yeah, there's levels to this, right? And I think it is important to look at why the Vikings give up so many.
Let me ask you a question. When you answer this, you can answer this too. Do you think it's that, yes, they give up a lot of yards because they're so aggressive, but yes, that causes the turnovers also?
Yeah, I was just going to say it reminds me of the Cowboys defense kind of last year, right? Where, yes, Trayvon Diggs can get absolutely smoked for 100 yards receiving against him in a game. But how much does that matter if, when it comes down to it, you end up coming down with the ball and therefore not giving up the points at the end of the day? Deron Bland can get. So this year, the Cowboys, we'll talk about the Cowboys defense, but this year, Deron Bland is more coverage, not going for the ball as much, I've noticed, which is clearly a change in scheme. And the Cowboys DBs are being a bit less aggressive in terms of trying to intercept the ball going forward. But last year it was go intercept the ball, come down with the ball, and if you give up the passing yards, that's okay. We'll get them next time. That's how it looks to me. And I think it is that aggression. And I kind of like that from a defense. I like my defense to go out there and try and make game-winning plays. Okay, you might give up something. That's what the safety's there for. The safety is there for if you fuck up and you miss on the interception, the safety can take care of that, and we'll go for it again, and we'll go for it again. And they just trust themselves to completely stop the run, which means you never lose control of games. And then as long as people are just passing on you and they can't run the ball, you're allowed to go and be aggressive. And I think it's aggressive to go get the sacks, aggressive to go get the turnovers. Now, when we get into playoff football, how viable is that going to be? We'll find out, won't we? And again, it's it's predicated. As long as they can stop the run, you can play the pass game like that, in my opinion, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and I love the aggressive nature of it, and let them throw. I mean, and you got guys back there that, yes, they're going to have to get younger, but Byron Murphy's young enough. He's a stud. Stephon Gilmore is a crafty veteran who's going to come up with balls. Shaq Griffin has came up with huge interceptions, but it's our safeties. It's Cam Bynum. It's Harrison Smith. It's Martellus. It's Josh Metellus. Those are the guys. And last night, filling in for Harrison Smith, Theo Jackson. Let me seal this game with an interception. But shout out to Dallas Turner getting his first interception in the NFL. Shout out Dallas.
Yeah.
Turner.
Yeah, I just wanted to quickly come on to that particular play, actually. Like, I was just watching it and I went, that's ridiculous. Like, okay, that's why Dallas Turner's... Because you would have been forgiven for thinking that the Vikings picked the wrong guy to be their pass rusher, right? Like, you would have been forgiven for thinking the Vikings should have gone for Jared Verse or Lart, who's had some decent games, and Dallas Turner maybe hasn't been putting up those numbers. But actually, in the past couple of weeks, Dallas Turner has played his way into that kind of, okay, yeah, he's the best rookie defensive player. Now, Jared Verse is going to win Rookie Defensive Player of the Year. I have no doubt about it because he's consistently there.
And he was gone.
Yeah.
He was the first defensive player taken. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. He was gone by the time he got to the Vikings, but now Jared Verse is going to be the rookie number one player. What I mean is, why did the Vikings then trade up for him? We just saw it. So he gets a big sack last week, like a pretty huge sack last week in the context of the game, and then that turnover was like, okay, here comes the Vikings. Like, that's what that felt like, that turnover, because the Seahawks were kind of driving down the field a little bit there. That is what gave the Vikings then the control, where this game looks close and Sam Darnold had to go on a game-winning drive at the end of the game, but it shouldn't have been. Like, it just wasn't. Like, the Vikings are a way better team than the Seahawks, and it shouldn't have been, and it's a difficult environment to play in, and it all came down to that Dallas Turner turnover there as well, where the defensive end linebacker combo, he drops into coverage and does an amazing play on coverage as well. So great play by Dallas Turner there. Jay, Sam Darnold was awesome in this game. Like, absolutely awesome. Game-winning drive. Brilliant. Should the Vikings play Sam Darnold or JJ McCarthy next year? Like, Sam Darnold is going to get out of here with at least 13 win season.
Well, that's in my overreactions. But yeah, unless he shits the bed in the playoffs completely, you have to keep Sam Darnold.
Yeah, exactly. Like, and that doesn't mean that you're moving off JJ McCarthy, right? It just, and people might say here, well, we bag on the Falcons, but we'll move on to it in the overreactions. But foreshadowing. People will say, well, you bang on the Falcons for taking a rookie QB and a veteran QB. Sam Darnold isn't the same contract as Kirk Cousins, and JJ McCarthy isn't the same quarterback as Michael Penix. Like, JJ McCarthy is project quarterback. Like, it does need some time, probably, to adjust to what you want him to be. And Sam Darnold is way cheaper than Kirk Cousins, so it's not the same at all. And nobody is mad at the Vikings for what they did there. But we'll leave it for overreactions for the rest of it. But Jay, should the Seahawks... So DK Metcalf comes up with a really big touchdown, like really good catch, really big touchdown. But then a few of the plays that I was watching, that final turnover to end the game, that's on where Gino just throws it straight to, that's on DK Metcalf. DK Metcalf is clearly meant to run an out route there. And he does run an out route, but for some reason he is late into the break, doesn't hit the break as much as he does, should be cutting across the face of the safety, actually goes behind the safety for some reason, which means Gino's just launching it straight. A lot of his route running left a decent amount to be desired from DK Metcalf here.
He's never been a great route runner, though. And this is what I don't understand. Like, I get when you got talent and it makes shit easier for you than others. but why are you not a master at your craft? Why do you not want to like run great routes? Like D-Hop used to take the top off of a defense. He can't run like that anymore. But you know what? He runs amazing routes. Stephon Diggs was little, fifth round draft pick. You know why he's quick and shit like that, but he runs amazing routes. That's what made Stephon Diggs. Like Devontae Adams isn't the fastest dude on the field. He runs amazing routes. I don't get why these guys don't do that.
Yeah, and I really don't get it with DK Metcalf as well, because he still has the physical attributes to be a great wide receiver. That's the thing. Like the go route that he catches for the touchdown is a great play with great physical attributes. But when I'm looking at it, I think you get a decent draft pick for DK Metcalf if you're the Seahawks. Jackson Smith-Njigba has arrived. Jackson Smith-Njigba is awesome. Really great player. Should the Seahawks be looking to trade DK Metcalf in their coming rebuild, go get ammo to go get yourself a QB.
I thought they should have traded in this last offseason when they were talking that Pittsburgh was talking about a first-round draft pick for him. I thought he should have already been gone. So if you can still get that at the end of the year, it's a weird thing, though. So, like, once the season ends, draft picks seem to be more valuable. And then as soon as the season starts, they're like, oh, I'll give you next year's first for something. And it's like, so I don't know. He might be less valuable now going into this offseason. I think they should have took it. I think there's a few wide receivers, and we can talk about this in the offseason, that should probably be traded from where they are.
Yeah, definitely. And it's the wide receiver position is now becoming like the running back position, where if you're not a great team and you're in a rebuild, then the wide receiver position isn't as important to you. And the running back position isn't as important to you. You need to go and fix the offensive line. But if you're a good team, if you're going for, like, if you're the Commanders or something like that, then DK Metcalf makes a huge difference to you. Like how the Eagles,
Steelers.
Yeah, or the Steelers, DK Metcalf makes a huge difference to you. Or even like the Ravens, DK Metcalf makes a big difference to you, right? It's like how for Philly, so Saquon Barkley, I still think the Giants were right to get rid of Saquon, because Saquon doesn't make a big difference for the Giants, even like with just how bad they are. Saquon doesn't make a big difference. Now, the issue that I have is you let him go to an NFC East team. At least you would have had the control for him not to go to someone in the NFC East, right? If you paid him. But Saquon Barkley makes such a huge difference to a really great team. It's like DK Metcalf, Derrick Henry wasn't making a huge difference to the Tennessee Titans. Like maybe one win. Derrick Henry will give them one extra win. Well, when you're a bad football team, one extra win actually doesn't help you at all. So it makes sense. So for a team in rebuild that have Jackson Smith-Njigba, if they didn't have Jackson Smith-Njigba, I wouldn't be saying this. Trading DK Metcalf makes massive sense to me for them going forward, especially if you can get a first or second round pick for it.
No, I agree. And especially that you can get that money off your cap and pick up young receivers now that seem to be coming out ready to play. I don't have a problem with that.
Yeah. Important to mention here that the Seahawks are one of the leading passing teams in the NFL as well. So I'm bagging on their wide receiver right now. DK Metcalf has actually had a really good season. It's just for someone who should be, for someone with the pick that they could get and the cap hit he takes, he's not playing the game in the way he should be for them. Everything should be perfect for them. And also Tyler Lockett is still decent as well. Jay, there were other huge games this week that we're going to talk a little bit more about in things like overreactions and coming into reacting to the Christmas Day games and the Thursday night game after that. So I've kind of left them out of this. But one huge game for me that I actually stayed up the whole 7 a.m. till to watch it was the Dallas Cowboys versus the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I'm still recovering from staying up until 7 a.m. for that, to be honest, because yesterday we're hosting all of Cynthia's family around ours. for Christmas Day. So we had to do all of our Christmas shopping and everything yesterday, go get everything. And I'd stayed up till 7 in the morning to watch this game.
Why would you wait till the
so-
fucking like week of to go do all the shopping?
Because our groceries actually go off because they don't have loads of preservatives in them. So you have to like actually buy them like kind of fresh, you know, like that's the issue. I bought all the Christmas
buying
presents.
like a live turkey and shit and slaughtering it at home.
It's impossible to find whole turkeys in Latvia. It's not something that they really do. So I've got a turkey breast and a turkey thigh, and I'm having to do it separately.
If you ever come visit me, Maddie, you'll be freaked out because wild turkeys just roam Green Bay.
That's actually pretty cool. That's actually cool.
Like right around the corner, we were walking one day and turned the corner. I mean, literally 500 feet from our house, turned the corner, and there's 3 turkeys in the front yard, and my dog's little and like wanting to like just kill the turkeys. Yeah,
quite aggressive, aren't they? Turkeys as well.
They seem to just they don't seem to give a shit about humans and just kind of like wander away.
Fair enough. All right, maybe they're the ones that are pardoned by the president. Maybe they put them all in Green Bay.
They're the smart ones. You can't fire a gun in the city limits, so they can't be shot.
See, big brain turkeys. There. But Jay, I did stay up to watch this game, and it was the Dallas Cowboys versus the Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
You. That's a story that needs to be told. You will have to let me know about that the next time I see you.
The Dallas Cowboys went up against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and Jay, the one thing that I just want to bring up on this game is like, fucking, like how hard were they hitting each other in this game? Like Chris Collinsworth says, it felt like playoff football. And just a reminder, the Dallas Cowboys were actually eliminated from the chances of the playoffs before this game, and that's honestly one of the hardest games I've watched them play all year. Like they went absolutely crazy in the hits, and Tampa were laying some big hits as well. It's the one hit where Vita Vea hits Jake Ferguson, and Jake Ferguson has no idea where he is in that game. But yeah, it was played really hard football game. And Jay, my question to you is: are the Dallas Cowboys defense back? They look good for the 4 out of 5 wins now, based on the defense with this many injuries still.
Yeah, it almost seems like Mike Zimmer's finally getting used to the pieces that he has, because he's used to bigger linebackers and bigger like 3 techniques and different things like that. So it looks like maybe Zimmer's getting more comfortable with his players and how to use them. I do think, though, the way the Cowboys are playing, it's just almost guaranteeing an extension for your whole coaching staff.
Yeah, definitely. And look, I'm not Mike McCarthy, fine. Like Mike McCarthy, okay, 12-win coach. Like, what makes me? I got hate for this in the group chat because, like, fair enough. Like, it was, oh yeah, you be proud of that or something. And I said, this is one of the worst seasons of Cowboys football I can remember, and we're currently 7-8. You know, like we were 6-8 at the time. I said we could finish 9-8, and that's one of the worst seasons of Cowboys football that I can remember. And you said, no, you can't, because you've got the Buccaneers, you've got the Commanders, and you've got the Eagles. Look, I still think they're going to lose against the Eagles and the Commanders. But they're 7-8 and one of the worst seasons. And Mike McCarthy has been a 12-win coach, a 12-win coach for the past 2 seasons as well. So I get keeping Mike McCarthy. I don't love it, but I get keeping him, especially in the structure that the Cowboys have. Like, if you want a Vrabel, then Jerry Jones has to step aside, and Jerry Jones won't step aside. So we're not going to get that kind of coach anyway. What I don't love is keeping Mike Zimmer, because I get what you're saying in terms of it looks like he's getting used to the pieces around him, and that's fair. I'd say that's fair. However, is it not maybe just the pieces around him are so good that it doesn't really matter that he's the defensive coordinator? Like they're all just quite good that it doesn't really matter. But I do think he's going to keep his job now. I agree with you.
Yeah, and they're going to blame it all on the injuries, and let's all be fair. Jerry didn't do shit to help out this team in the offseason. And yeah, so I think that's because I think Jerry's smart enough to know that when the coaching carousel comes around, the top candidates don't want to coach for him.
Yeah, definitely. And if you are a top candidate, why would you want to coach for them as well? And the Dallas Cowboys comes with so many other things as well, like obviously meddling owner, but there's a lot of organizations that have a meddling owner, but it's just the circus around. So it actually makes sense. Like now Mike McCarthy is used to that. He's won games during that. He fits the Dallas Cowboys structure, it seems. So having an experienced coaching staff when you're the Dallas Cowboys does make a lot of sense. So going and getting a Ben Johnson doesn't really work for the Dallas Cowboys in my opinion, which is a shame. We should change the organization so it does work. But it doesn't. Thank you very much. Cheers. Nice Christmas present there.
Merry Christmas, Patty. Have safe travels. Hope I see you before then.
Yeah. But yeah, I think the Dallas Cowboys defense is back though. Like definitely.
You said Brian Johnson, and I had an epiphany this week.
Ben Johnson.
Ben Johnson. Ben Johnson should take the Jets job under the condition that he gets to hire his own GM because there is a fuckload of talent on that team and it just needs somebody like him.
Yeah, definitely. And the issue is, will Aaron Rodgers listen to young coach coming in who, because what makes Ben Johnson so special is his offense.
Well, you only want Rodgers for 1 year.
Rodgers offense.
You only want Rodgers for 1 year. So, and I don't know how he looks, but I was always a big fan. So if Hayden Hooker looks any good, maybe you can get him away from Detroit.
Yeah. Yeah. I actually quite like that move. Now that you speak about it, I just think the Bears would be stupid not to go get Ben Johnson. The Bears should be trying to get Ben Johnson.
I don't have Adam Schefter inside information, but from everything I'm reading, it's Vrabel.
Yeah, I think it's Vrabel as well, but I just think Ben Johnson would be the perfect fit there. Jay, just the Cowboys have now won 4 in 5 games. Their only loss was in the last 5 games was against the Bengals. After that weird special teams play as well. Now, important to mention, it's been a pretty easy schedule for them in that 5 games. I'm not saying that the Cowboys are back and they're ready to beat the world next year, but how does this show the potential for what the Dallas Cowboys could do next season? They've won 4 in 5 games without Trayvon Diggs has been injured now. D-Law's injured as well, and there's been other injuries throughout the season. Overshown's out.
Okay, I am not saying that they should make a move, but it is wild to me that the Cowboys look better with Cooper Rush than they did with Dak Prescott.
I think that's defense. I think that's defense and run game. Like the Cowboys have found an semblance of a run game in the past 5 games. That's the difference. Like Dak was having to throw 40 times when he was in there. And Brandon Cooks has come back. Brandon Cooks seems to have changed life for the Dallas offense there as well, having a second guy to CeeDee Lamb that they actually have to go cover. CeeDee Lamb was ridiculous in this game, by the way.
Yeah, tough and through. That was wild.
Yeah. So in these 5 games, in these last 5 games, the Cowboys beat the Commanders, they beat the Giants, they lost to the Bengals, they beat the Panthers, and now they've beaten the Buccaneers. So not as easy as I thought it was that 5 games. So I'm quite positive for the Cowboys going into next year if people can't tell. And I think that the NFC East has the chance of taking the NFC North's crown of best division in football next year going into it. Jay, why should teams still be afraid of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers if they make it to the playoffs? Now that the Falcons actually have much improved their opportunity to go in as division winners. But if the Buccaneers still make it into the playoffs, should teams be afraid of them, and why should they be afraid of them?
Because they're gritty as fuck and they never quit.
Yeah, definitely. And I think Baker Mayfield just sums that up. Like, their quarterback just sums that up the whole time. Baker Mayfield had a difficult game under the Dallas Cowboys defense. If they stop the run, the pass rush is animal, and Baker Mayfield had to go up against that. And they are gritty as fuck, and they went into a place where they were getting smashed around, and they still could have come out with the win in that game as well. I don't want to play against Baker Mayfield, Mike Evans, Vita Vea, Bucky Irvin, Rashad White. Like, that's a hard-nosed team, and that is built for playoff football. And I think the Bucs will be kicking themselves if they don't make it into the playoffs because of that run of games in the middle of the season where they just completely fell off.
Yeah, it's going to be a wild end of the season to see how this all shakes out.
Yeah, definitely. Jay, that was our Week 16 reactions, standard reaction, where we're all chill and we actually go through with loads of nice evidence. Now is time for our Week 16 overreactions, where we take our wildest takes and put them out into the ether for everybody to judge us on. Jay, what is your first Week 16 overreaction?
Well, since I already kind of alluded to this one, I'll go with it. The Vikings have to keep Sam Darnold for next year.
Yeah, let's talk about that a little bit. Why do you think they have to keep Sam Darnold? What do you do with JJ McCarthy then at that point?
Well, you just leave him sit. You just leave him sit and you franchise Sam and you go for it. You run it for another year because a second year in this offense, the team loves him. Look at, like, he was clutch, drove him right down the field, touchdown. And the week before or 2 weeks ago, I don't remember, same thing, right down the field, where I'm almost like, you motherfucker scored too quick.
Yeah. That final drive down the field, I think I messaged you saying, okay, Sam Darnold, yeah, like Sam Darnold's amazing. That's it. This is the Sam Darnold that we saw coming out of USC. And if you get that guy, you have to hold on to him.
I don't know if he'll give any kind of discount whatsoever, but if you're Sam Darnold, you might want to think about taking a little less to stay with Minnesota, even if they'll give you a couple-year contract, because are you going to have this same level of success with somebody outside of Kevin O'Connell? Maybe. But you two seem to be locked and loaded together. So, and
It's
here's
the connection.
Thing. I love JJ McCarthy, but your whole goal as a franchise is to find a franchise quarterback. And if it ends up being Sam Darnold and they make it to the NFC Championship game or the Super Bowl, and you have to, like, scrap your original plan to, like, have all this fucking cap money and figure it out, then that's what you have to do, because the goal is to find that guy.
Yeah, and I think you definitely franchise him. You definitely franchise Sam Darnold for next year, right? And there's no point.
Unless for some reason he's getting less, offered only like 30, 35 million from other teams or something, and you can get him a little cheaper. Okay.
Yeah, definitely. And the whole reason for having a rookie quarterback as well is the amount of cap room that it gives you to play with. And when you have the offense that the Vikings are building, like they won't want to go with Sam Darnold if he's costing like what the market price is for quarterback. Like if Brock Purdy comes out with 50 million, Sam Darnold could go to them. Like if Sam Darnold's agent is doing his job, he'll say, we want the Brock Purdy contract at least. So whatever Brock Purdy's contract is, like, might dictate what Sam Darnold's contract is as well, or what the agent asked for. And I agree with you. I think it is within Sam Darnold's best interest to stay in Minnesota. I also think it's within the Vikings' best interest in keeping their veteran players happy. Like, Sam Darnold will take you to, how many wins have you got now? 13 wins. He might take you to 14, 15 win season.
15. and
Yeah.
a home field advantage and a bye.
Yeah.
If the Vikings win out, they don't have to play another game outside of a dome, even including the Super Bowl.
Yeah, and it's just, how do you then go, if that happens, how do you then go to Justin Jefferson and Jordan Addison and the veterans in the locker room and say, okay, yeah, we're going with the rookie now next year, unless that rookie's been dicing up at practice and they're like, okay, yeah, sure, let's do it. Because let's remember, Alex Smith also got double-digit wins for the Kansas City Chiefs, but nobody was upset when Patrick Mahomes came in afterwards, because they saw that Patrick Mahomes was lighting it up at practice. So maybe if they saw that from JJ McCarthy, then they'd be fine. But it makes sense for them to at least franchise tag him to see if it's real next year, and then move on from there. So I agree with you on that overreaction, and I think it's an over. I don't necessarily agree that it's an overreaction, because I think a lot of people. But if you look at the comments from the start of the year to where we've got to now, it's definitely an overreaction, because we were saying, oh, no matter how well Sam Darnold does, you have to go with JJ McCarthy. But I don't think anyone expected Sam Darnold to look this good, right?
I still believe that, but that doesn't mean that I think that's what they'll do.
Yeah, I still believe that you have to go to JJ McCarthy eventually, because if you franchise Sam Darnold and he plays this well again, then it'll cost $50 million for someone, and that shouldn't be the Minnesota Vikings.
I am the firm believer, and this is just my opinion, that he's got to win a Super Bowl for me to keep him
for long periods of time. Yeah, that's crazy.
Even for next year, if it's me.
Jay, I've gone for my first overreaction. I've gone for a hometown overreaction as well. I think the Cowboys are going to win at least 12 games next season. At least 12 next season, just with the way that they're playing. I think they have the chance of going from one of the worst to first in the league there.
We them boys, this our year.
We them boys, this. Oh, no. They'll still lose in the playoffs. I think the regular season they'll be fine, and then they're going to get smoked at home in the playoffs. Like that's just usual. Jay, what's your second overreaction?
The Eagles blew their shot at a Super Bowl.
Okay, go on. Elaborate on that a little bit.
I think they needed home field advantage. I think the
Eagles
home field advantage to get there, and I think if the road becomes a lot tougher if they end up having to play in Minnesota or Detroit.
Yeah, I think the Eagles at home. I think the Eagles can take their game on the road, but it's the teams that they play against are so much better in a dome.
And the crowd noise and everything.
Yeah, there's so much. So the Vikings and the Lions, especially the Lions, are so much better in a dome. Their game suits being in a dome. That if they were forced to go outside to Philly, then that would be really tough. Like for them, it's not necessarily that Philly can't take their game on the road. It's the other teams would struggle so much more if they had to go outside. Yeah, I agree with you on that one, and obviously that makes me quite happy as well. Jay, my second Week 16 overreaction is that Drake May will have a better NFL career than Shedeur Sanders.
High praise.
Yeah, going into next year, I think like all this hype about Shedeur Sanders. I've actually seen some scouting reports recently that say he wouldn't have been taken in the first round if he came out this year. Like with Shedeur. Now, I don't necessarily agree with that, looking at what I've seen from him, but just a few people saying that kind of stuff. And Drake May, with the way that the Patriots' offensive line looks, has played some lights out ball. And that game against the Bills, he was awesome.
No, I think he's playing good, but my comp for Shedeur Sanders right now is Jaden Daniels. So we'll have to wait and see how that plays out.
Yeah, definitely. Jay, what is your third and final overreaction to Week 16?
The Panthers will win the South next season.
Okay, I like that. I like that. That no one's thinking that. The South is such a weird division, man. The NFC South. Do you not worry with the way that the Falcons looked with Michael Penix that the Falcons are going to hit the ground running next year?
I mean, he threw for 200 yards. And I mean, he had an interception, but was it off of Pitts or was it off of London? What doesn't matter. If they had fingers, I don't know how they didn't catch that. So that was a weird one. But I mean, I'm not saying Penix can't play, but he didn't make me go, oh, wow, he lit the world on fire.
Yeah, fucking Kyle Pitts, man. He's such a fantasy nightmare because he's just like. So I'm not complaining. My fantasy team went crazy this year because this week, but Kyle Pitts got 1.7 fantasy points. Kyle Pitts, just so frustrating to fall in love with fantasy every single fucking year and still play terrible. But yeah, I think the Bucks. For me, it's going to be the Bucks next year in the NFC South. But I love what the Carolina Panthers have been doing in this second half of the season.
All right, what is your final one?
So for me, my final overreaction to Week 16 is that Jonathan Taylor will lead the league in rushing next season. Next season, Jonathan Taylor will lead the league in rushing. The Colts' offensive line has got way better, looks so good against the run block. The Colts seem to have realized that Anthony Richardson should only be throwing the ball at most 20 times in a game, and them all being down the field shots. And Jonathan Taylor went off this week. Reminded us that he's still got that burst of speed, a 70-yard touchdown and a 65-yard touchdown as well.
So Saquon's retiring?
I just think that the Colts,
it's just a Badger, but like, okay.
It's gonna be the volume for me that he's gonna get through next year and that big play ability. I'm not saying that Jonathan Taylor is better than Saquon Barkley. It's just because that would be wrong and insane. I just think the Colts' offensive line is way better than people realize, especially in the run game. So, and they should just be riding Jonathan Taylor. And he's another year off that injury as well that was slowing him down towards the beginning of the season, at the end of last season. So, give me Jonathan Taylor. But yeah, Saquon Barkley and Derrick Henry obviously will have something to say about that next year. Jay, that was our overreactions to Week 16. We're now moving on to my favorite segment, GMJ, where I get to ask Jay questions that I would ask GMs all around the league. So, Jay, first question, what is the best job in the NFL going to be for general managers next year?
The Jets.
Yeah, why? Why do you think the Jets?
They have so much talent up and down the board. You have to find the future quarterback. But other than that, you have so much talent. I think they just need to revamp that defensive system. They need to get with a more modern offense where you run motion and all that. But they have so much talent up and down the board, and most of it's young, like really young. I think the Jets is a great job that's going to be open. Even with
an owner that asks you to get players because of Madden ratings.
But he won't be around again. He'll be over in England.
They've given the job to someone else. Trump gave the job to someone else, but he's staying.
Well,
he's going to be in New York, baby. Yeah, I think I agree with you though. Like the fun of the Jets job is that next year, if Aaron Rodgers is your quarterback, it doesn't really matter. Because if they play really well, that's good for GMs. But also, if you can get that defense firing, you can feel like you hire the right coach, then you can just blame everything on Aaron Rodgers if your first year doesn't go as well as you want. Say, okay, yeah, we're building after Rodgers, like blame it. Like it's always the play of an incoming government, isn't it? To blame it on the previous, blame it on the previous, you know? So you can still blame the decisions of the previous GM next year if everything falls apart. And then you get the fun of making sure you have the right coach and making sure your guy is the coach that you want, finding the quarterback that you want while still having all of this talent as well. I would just worry about the owner. But
usually when you're going to a bad team, the owner's a problem anyway.
Yeah, definitely. I feel like the Giants, though, the other New York team,
they don't have
like
they don't have anything on their roster though.
Yeah, so you have less pieces than you do at the Jets, 100%. But it's just a team where like they're coming from such a low point that you just get to build in your own like in your own
And
way, you get at least a runway of 3 years, like straight
when
away.
you come from that low of a point, you build a team that's good enough, and then you get fired, and the next guy gets to enjoy it.
Yeah. Yeah, that is tough. Jay, my second question for you is, with now some teams of clinching their playoff berths, they're not going to get any better, any worse. Would you be a rest and potentially rust guy, or you play your team all the way through?
I mean, it depends on what team you are. I was thinking about this today. They won't do it, but I was thinking because we play them next week. The Packers got nothing to play for. They clinched a playoff spot. I don't think they can even move down or up in that ranking. So I think they're the only ones that they really have nothing to play for. So if you got guys, maybe you don't play them as much. You rest them. Maybe it's time to just now. Packers, please play Jordan Love, because I don't even want to deal with the shit show that comes along with trying to keep Malik Willis in the fucking pocket. I just don't want to deal with it. So, but if you want to take some of your guys who are dinged up like Watson and sit him and things like that, maybe sit Brandon Jacobs, let him be fresh for a playoff run. I'm good with that. Go ahead, Green Bay, sit that.
Yeah, for me, it's like the Chiefs. So if the Chiefs beat the Steelers on Christmas Day, they then get a first round bye. For
Now
me,
you
do
don't
then
rest
play
them.
those players.
Now,
you don't rest them if you've got a first round bye.
I don't, because now that's 3 weeks. Unless somebody's injured, of course, get them healthy. But then it's 3 weeks that these guys haven't played. I don't know if I love that.
I just, for the Chiefs, a lot of that roster have done it so many times that does it. The 3 weeks off, like, do you really worry about that? Like, Pat Mahomes isn't going to come into a playoff game underprepared because of the amount of times he's played.
It's not the preparation; it's the rust. You haven't been playing football for 3 weeks. It's just, I don't know. I don't love that idea.
I would rest Mahomes.
You don't play him the first half of that last game minus the ankle injury. Minus the ankle injury, you wouldn't rest. You wouldn't play him for the first. I'm playing them all for the first half of that last game at a minimum, unless they're injured.
I don't know. I trust Patrick Mahomes not to come in rusty because of the amount of times he's done it before. And players like Travis Kelce, I trust them to not commit, because Andy Reid rests them pretty much every time they've clinched. Every time he's clinched, he's rested those players going in. As well. If I'm the Lions,
if they do it and they lose in their first game, I'm blaming it on the rest.
If the Lions lose this week, then they're the 5th seed.
No, they can still win the division if they beat us in week 18 and it's a tie. They still win the division. Yeah,
but if they lose and you win these next 2 games, if they lose and you win, or what, and then they can beat you still. Okay, never mind then.
So there'd be no rest for the Lions either way. It oddly, now for home field advantage it matters, but for the division, this week does not matter for the Lions at all.
Yeah, I think for me, I'm a rest guy if I have experienced players and they've experienced the playoffs. But for my young players, I would rather play them. I would rather play them through and just keep things rolling. Like, I'm not resting. Like, the Commanders might have nothing to play for in that last week either. I'm not resting Jaden Daniels in that case.
If the Vikings had the first round bye clinched going in, they can't. But if they did going into week 18, I would rest Aaron Jones, Harrison Smith, Justin Jefferson, nobody else.
Yeah, definitely. Like, that's a team with not amazing playoff experience and stuff like that as well. So just keep the ball rolling as you go down there as well. Jay, my final question to you that I would ask GMs all around the league is, why is home field advantage so important in the playoffs? I know it's not really a GM question, but a GM would know. Why is home field advantage so important in the playoffs?
Well, you're comfortable, the stadium, your fans, it's loud when the opposing team's on offense, hard to get plays off. So, you know what I mean? It becomes a big deal. And
Yeah.
if you're a dome team, you don't want to be playing in Philly or in New York or Green Bay.
Buffalo, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's it, isn't it? It's if you're a good team, which to make the playoffs and to be in contention for having home field advantage, you have to be a somewhat good team, right? You will have built that team around what you can do at home, right? You build the team ideally to be able to go away from home as well, but really it's that team. You play more games at home than any other stadium, so you build your team around what you can do at home, and then so it should fit your team. So if you're an outdoor team, you've built the team to play outdoors. Other teams haven't done that, so they have to come to you. And then there's the crowd noise element. I think the crowd noise element is something that's really underrated in the NFL. Actually, the amount of times that you see crowd noise playing havoc with things like the snap count, getting false starts, all of that kind of thing. When you get so many pre-snap penalties, crowd noise is so important. And
Look at
as well.
Look at how many pre-snap penalties the Seahawks had at home yesterday. If they would have been in Minnesota, it would have been way worse.
Yeah, the Seahawks crowd I thought was quite weird in that game. Like, because the Seahawks crowd is one of the loudest in the NFL. It's a really not great place to go. But they were loud on both sides of the ball last week. Like, normally it's when the opposing offense is on the ball, you get really loud. But they were ridiculously loud when their own team was on offense as well. So I don't think that helped. I thought the Seahawks fans were really strange.
There was quite a bit of purple in there. So thank you, Seahawks fans, for selling your tickets to Vikings fans. I appreciate that.
Yeah, it was the opposite of that was the Cowboys game. The Cowboys stadium was like pin drop silent, I thought, for a lot of that game. Like when the Bucs were on the field as well. I found that really interesting because it's not normally like that at AT&T.
No, but the fans already checked out of this season.
I think it was a lot of tourist fans last week. I think the Cowboys get a lot of tourist fans. So it's like in the UK, Man United get a lot of tourism fans. So the fans that like don't necessarily know the chants. So you get the one stand, which is like really hardcore Man United fans go to every game. And that's really loud. And then the rest of the stadium is quite quiet and quite tourist fans is like what we call it. And I think that might have been the case in Dallas. Because I think a lot of Dallas Cowboys fans, as soon as they were out of the playoffs, they might have sold their tickets to tourist fans.
Speaking of that, I know you like your football chant songs where you talk shit. And so I thought you might really appreciate the LSU Tigers chant. Because they go, oh, suck that Tiger dick, bitch.
That's yes, class, like brilliant. Just that's a very American way of doing it because you're bigging yourself up. But British fans, it's not about bigging your team up; it's about bringing the other team down. Like,
I know,
it's different. It's like when the goalkeeper. So we have a similar thing when the goalkeeper is taking a goal kick. You go like whoa as he's running up. It's like whoa. You fat bastard. Like, and you just like pick on the goalkeeper. It's like, it's not about like, yeah, Sunderland are great and you're shit. You're just shit. Like, and we're not actually there to celebrate the team. But I love that about British fans. And it actually makes the atmosphere much worse than in Europe, but it's funny. So I'm good with that. Like we don't do, so, like when we're talking about what the Seahawks fans do, where it's like, it's on third down and it's just make as much fucking noise as you can. We like don't do that. We're not like make loads of noise. We're synchronized chant to take the piss out of the other team, which isn't as loud, but it is also funny as you go through. Jay, that is week 16, almost in the books for us. The final thing to do is to give out our week 16 awards. Jay, who is your week 16 MVP?
Jaden Daniels.
Yeah,
that's my rookie. My rookie MVP.
That's your rookie. That's your rookie MVP. Okay. So I knew you were going to say Jaden Daniels because that is the correct answer. So I went for a different alternative in rookie MVP. The Chargers looked completely different when Joel and Rashawn Slater were out there. Like Joel and Rashawn Slater were ridiculous. If you look at the Chargers O-line, right? So we now think that the Chargers O-line is actually brilliant, but it's just they have two good tackles. That the actual interior of the line, there are loads of plays where Rashawn Slater is blocking a guy completely on his own. Joel is blocking a guy completely on his own. And then there's a huge pass rush up the middle where three Chargers offensive linemen are blocking one guy instead of who they're meant to be blocking and stuff like that. And Joel is amazing. And when you watch him, I think you forget he's a rookie as well. So I'll take the unsexy rookie MVP vote of Joel.
I like it.
Yeah. Jay, who is your Week 16 non-rookie MVP?
CeeDee Lamb.
Nice. Yeah. Playing her.
Besides that he went off, he was hurt. He got over 100 receptions now. He should not touch the field the rest of the year. He should.
Yeah, I think it would
stop him
yeah.
from touching the field for the rest of the year.
Yeah, I think CD's one of those players who will always try and fight to play. And it's one of those times where the coach has to step in and say, this is better for you and this is better for us if we don't completely hammer your shoulder.
Actually, so there's never any hard feelings. It should be Jerry or Steven, whoever the GM is, calling him in and going, look, we're shutting you down. This is healing. And then it shouldn't even be a Mike McCarthy thing, though. You know what I mean? They shouldn't even put it on the coach to do that.
Yeah. It's difficult because it's two divisional games coming up and you always want to, like, I think if CD sits. Yeah, exactly. I think if CD sits, you have no. So I would understand the temptation of wanting to play the divisional games because if CD goes off, then you have no chance of winning realistically. However, we're looking to next season now. Like the Cowboys have done enough hard work to get themselves playing good football again. That it's let's just look to next season. Let's not completely need CeeDee Lamb's shoulder reconstructing.
The front office has to be hoping you lose. The players and coaches want to win, but the front office has to be hoping you lose for the draft picks.
Yeah, definitely. The Cowboys are going to have played their way out of already some pretty good draft picks, which I'm fine about, like because keep the winning culture and all of that kind of stuff. But yeah, I would sit CeeDee Lamb as well. I agree with you, but very deserving winner of the MVP. I think, considering he only played about half of that game, he got around 100 yards receiving as well.
I think he had 136, if I'm not mistaken. So,
yeah, for me, Jay, the MVP of Week 16 was Jonathan Taylor.
There's a shock.
It's a crazy game. For those of you who don't know, Jonathan Taylor was in my fantasy team this week, and he got 46 fantasy points, which is pretty good way for me to go through to the finals. But also, I think he's deserving of it, though, right? Like 29 carries, 218 yards, 3 touchdowns. Making up for last week's dumbass play.
And they're in different leagues, but you and I are both in championships, but mine's a 2-week championship.
Yeah, I was gonna because we've done a 2-week championship before, but it's not this year, is it? It's this game.
It wasn't last year either. After the first year, because there's 14 teams, we changed to a 7-team playoff format.
Yeah, definitely. I remember the first year being
only 4 teams make the playoffs in the league I'm in, so each round is 2 weeks.
That's nice. Yeah, Jonathan Taylor I thought was awesome, and I thought what I really liked about it was not because of Jonathan Taylor, but Jonathan Taylor dropping the ball last week completely fucked their leverage for getting a playoff spot. But I don't think it's in the Colts' best interest to be in the playoffs, to be honest. They're not good enough to be in the playoffs. They're making the use of playing in a shitty division. Like, they're not good enough to be in the playoffs realistically. So it actually is better for them to not be in. But Jonathan Taylor was awesome, 218 yards. That's an MVP. And what I really liked was all of his celebrations were to do with not dropping the ball over the line. So the first celebration was he carried the ball all the way through the end zone, like ran still as hard all the way through the end zone down the tunnel, holding onto the ball. The second one was 2-arm clutching over the line, and I can't remember what the third one was, but I was a big fan of that. So nice being able to laugh at yourself and some recognition. But Jay, that is week 16 in the books. We are now moving on to week 17 of this NFL season with our Christmas game previews and the game that's on Boxing Day as well. Oh, stupid British question. Do Americans celebrate Boxing Day? I know you told me. I just can't remember.
No.
Not like celebrate, but is Boxing Day a thing?
No. It's something that we make fun of, and nobody actually has an idea of what it is.
It's just a chill day. It's just basically an extra day of Christmas. It's just how we call it. I thought you guys would be all over it because it's like Boxing Day sales and stuff. Like the shops just completely cut everything down. It's like our version of Black Friday.
They do that here too, but they don't call it Boxing Day. They just have the after Christmas sales.
They just have that. Yeah, they just have that. I like it. It's a fun day. It's my favorite day of the year, Boxing Day, because I like Christmas and everything, but there's pressure on Christmas.
Yeah.
Like Christmas has to be good, you know?
I'm with you. It's a little different. You don't celebrate it, but my favorite holiday is Thanksgiving because it's just food, family, and football. So
yeah, definitely. Christmas, that I'm pretty tired of Christmas. I know it's stupid to say on Christmas Eve, but like better the work by Christmas now. But 2026 Boxing Day, we have the Bears against the Seahawks as well. So we're going to give our picks for all three of those games, and we're going to talk a little bit about them. We'll start with the Steelers versus the Chiefs. The Chiefs are 2.5-point favorites in this game. Jay, can the Chiefs defense keep George Pickens quiet on his return? Looks like he is returning for this game.
Yeah, I think they can. I think they have a good secondary. I think the Chiefs defense is underrated, and I think everybody knows this. If you can cause pressure up the middle, it's a problem, and they can create havoc up the middle.
Yeah, I think my favorite Chief at the moment might be George Karlaftis. Like George Karlaftis does not get the love that he deserves.
No, and I was thinking about this like 2 or 3 weeks ago, Maddie. You and I were talking so highly of him coming out of the draft and how good of a draft pick it was. And yeah, I was just thinking about that a couple weeks ago.
Sometimes we just get to I feel like we might just remember our good picks.
Yo, I'm sure. I'm sure.
Yeah. but George Karlaftis was definitely one of them. And look, I can't believe he doesn't get the love that he deserves because Chris Jones is on that. Like Chris Jones is on that defensive line as well, and Chris Jones very rightly gets a lot of love. But George Karlaftis is awesome. He's
the name you hear on almost every other play. Is Karlaftis in the backfield? Karlaftis with the pressure. He makes the tackle for a loss, like strip sack. Like it's like this dude's all over.
Yeah, he just gets absolutely. He just goes for it as well. The Steelers have a really young offensive line, which I think the Steelers' offensive line is still pretty good. It's just young. Like, they're just learning the game. Like, I love Zach Fraser, the center for the Steelers. I think Zach Fraser was great. I really wanted him to be a Dallas Cowboy as well. I basically wanted him to be a Dallas Cowboy all of last year. I really like Zach Fraser, but going up against Chris Jones in the middle there is going to be a difficult assignment. George Karlaftis as well. And then if you have Trent Duffy and then the safety over the top covering George Pickens, I think this could be a difficult game for the Steelers. Isaiah Pacheco's back, able to run. If the Steelers are going to win this game, Jay, what weaknesses of the Chiefs can they exploit?
They have to be able to run the ball, but I don't know if they're going to be able to. And that's the key for them to win this game. They have to run the ball.
Yeah, definitely. They have to run the ball. They have to keep Patrick Mahomes. Look, the Chiefs' offense isn't like some crazy high-octane offense. That's not what it is anymore. So it's not about necessarily keeping Mahomes off the field because he's going to put loads of points on you. but it's about controlling the game. It's about if you have a chance to make the field goal to win the game at the end of the game, it's not leaving any time for Patrick Mahomes at the end of the game. That's what running the ball does for you. It's no longer for the Chiefs about keeping them off the field because they're going to score 50 points on you if you can't keep them off the field. It's in big end of game situations, not giving the Chiefs any time to do anything on the other side of the ball and just maintaining control. So I think they've got to be able to run the ball. I think if the defense can keep the Chiefs quiet, then they do have a chance of winning this game. I mean, the Chiefs are only 2.5-point favorites in this game. Jay, who have you got?
This is one of my locks of the week. Give me the Chiefs minus 2.5. That lock that in. That's a lock. That's a stone cold lock right there.
Yeah, I like the Chiefs at 2.5 as well. I don't know whether I'm comfortable saying it's a lock. The Chiefs are weird when it comes to covering the spread, but I can see why I could definitely see why it's a lock. I think at least a field goal win would make sense here. I'm taking the Chiefs as well in this one. Jay, the other Christmas Day game is the Texans going up against the Baltimore Ravens. The Ravens are 5.5-point favorites on the road here. Should we still be considering CJ Stroud a top QB in the NFL? The reason that I'm asking this question, Jay, is what we alluded to earlier in the show. Tank Dell goes out, CJ Stroud is crying on the touchline, and that basically loses the Texans the game because he can't control his emotions at all.
Yes, but he can't let that happen, and I don't understand it. Like, I messaged you, and I'm like, he acts like he never saw a football injury before. He acts like Tank Dell died. Like, this is not the Damar Hamlin situation. That was scary as fuck. He literally, like, died on the field twice. Now it's horrible. He dislocated his knee, but that wasn't even on CJ Stroud. That was on whoever hit him in the fucking knee in the end zone. His own other receiver. I don't remember who it was. I don't know if it was
Wayne.
Okay.
Wayne.
So, and I'm not blaming that dude either, right? But, like, I don't know. Like, they were like, maybe CJ Stroud blames himself. I'm like, I don't understand this. I don't understand his reaction. I get they're close friends. But, like, literally, dude, after the game, you can go visit him. Like, it's not like he died. I'm so confused on the reaction by CJ Stroud. And you're right. He was shook after that. And you could tell by the play calling the next series that they were trying to protect him.
Yeah, definitely. And look, I think when the golf buggy went off and they had to bring the more covered ambulance on, like, I do get that was stressful. And Tank Dell dislocated his knee and has completely destroyed his ACL. He's going to need to is going to have to undergo surgery for that. That's an injury that will keep him out for the rest of the season, obviously, but is the type of injury that may keep him out for all of next season as well, which is difficult for Tank Dell. And CJ Stroud, he's like, that's his best friend apparently, but crying on the sideline. I was just looking at it and I was like, do you know what? Like, they might have to take CJ Stroud out in this game. Like, they may have to take him. They may have to take him out. And I don't want my quarterback with that level of emotion. And I hate picking on guys when they're emotional and they're obviously going through stuff. Like, that's not what I'm doing here. I'm just saying, if you're going to have to protect him for your play calling, maybe you have to take him out, because it's not like he's lighting the world on fire anyway at the moment. And I think CJ Stroud has taken a big second-year gap, and it was last season CJ Stroud, and this season is what CJ Stroud looks like in reality, or was last season what CJ Stroud is, and this season is a down year with a poor offensive line and him going through the second-year slump.
And one injury after another to his receivers too.
Wide receiver call. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So I don't know where we are with CJ Stroud. It's just that really made me question his emotional ability to play football, to play quarterback in the NFL.
You have to be able to, you have to be able to like move on from a situation, compartmentalize. Holy fuck, I can't speak. The situation, and yeah, it's something you're going to deal with after the game. You're going to go see if your friend's okay, you're hurt. But, actually, to me, the best thing you could have done is went and won that game for your friend, right? Like, the reaction was so, like, like I said to you, and I hate to keep repeating it, but it's like he acted like somebody fucking died.
Yeah, it made me think when I found out that it was just a dislocated knee,
right,
and an ACL, right? Like, still a horrible injury. But when I
right.
found out that it was just that, I was like, oh, well, that injury happens every week in the NFL. Like that, like Overshown destroyed his ACL, MCL, like his ACL and his MCL. Like, needs to completely reconstruct his leg, basically. And you saw players shook, but you didn't see Cooper Rush like crying on the sideline. Like, I don't mind if like other players, because they don't have to touch the ball every down, right? Like, and they can have that time. Your quarterback has to touch the ball on every down. Like, that is an emotional thing that a quarterback should be able to do. And to be honest, I would have taken him out for the next drive. As soon as I saw tears rolling down his face, I was like, he can't play the next drive. And he went in for the next drive and just played flustered. He looked flustered throughout the rest of the game.
Yeah.
As well. So yeah, surprised by that on CJ Stroud. For this game, Jay, how much of a miss is Tank Dell after his injury?
Oh, it's big for the rest of their season because I was banking on them having him and Nico to go cause some ruckus maybe in the playoffs. But I think they're going to be in the playoffs, but it's going to be less scary to play them.
Yeah, I mean, with Stephon Diggs coming back, I guess they.
I guess he's not, from what I'm hearing now.
Oh, right, okay.
Because it was worse for the ACL than was expected, I guess, is what I'm hearing. Reading. I should quit saying hearing, like I got some inside fucking source. What I keep reading.
I think the Ravens have looked out in the past 2 weeks, right? They play the Steelers without George Pickens. So everybody is all of a sudden saying that, the Ravens have fixed their defensive problems. It's like, no, they played the Steelers without George Pickens, and they're about to play the Texans without Stephon Diggs and without Tank Dell. So like their secondary could still be bad.
Shout out to Tank Dell for holding on to that fucking ball. I just have to say that.
Yeah. By the way, big balls play, like dislocating your knee and your ACL while still scoring the touchdown. So when I was first watching it as well, I didn't realize that he scored the touchdown as well. That was immense. Like that was impressive. But they're playing without Tank Dell, and I just think with the Ravens, with the way that Tank Dell would be a nightmare for them because they have Nate Wiggins is played really well this season. So can go and plaster Nico Collins and then have safety over the top help for Nico Collins, right? But I think Tank Dell would have been an absolute fucking nightmare for them. He was causing the Chiefs real problems as well. And they've looked out because they don't have that in this game. Can they stop the run with Joe Mixon is probably the biggest talking point of this game. We've already spoken about the Ravens a lot in this show, Jay. Are the Ravens, who have you got? The Ravens are 5.5 point favorites.
Give me the Ravens minus 5.5. And I'm not even joking. I'm not sure if CJ Stroud will be mentally in the right state even a week later to play this game.
Or not I think he might.
It's a very short week.
I think he will be in the right mental state.
The way he broke down, I don't know. Like it just, like he was so shook. And I'm not saying he won't be. I'm just not positive he will be. And I'd have took the Ravens either way. But that makes me lean that way even more.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing about this game is what we were talking about with the Ravens earlier as well. Their offensive line. So the Texans have a great defensive line. They cause all sorts of chaos for a lot of people. But I think the Ravens have the offensive line to kind of handle that. They have Derrick Henry to offset that. Zay Flowers, pretty quick wide receiver to offset that as well. Give me the Ravens in this one at 5.5 as well. I just think it's unfortunate for the Texans that they don't have Tank Dell for that game because I think Tank Dell would cause them so many problems. Jay, going into our final game that we'll be giving the preview of this week. This is the Boxing Day game over here. It is the Chicago Bears versus the Seattle Seahawks. The Seahawks are 3.5-point favorites. Jay, is there any hope for Caleb Williams going forward?
Not this season. Like, they got to
do you think that they've ruined him?
Huh?
Do you think that they've ruined him? Do you think that they've ruined Caleb Williams?
I think they're trying. I think this kid might have enough confidence in himself where he can bounce back from this, but it would have ruined some other quarterbacks. And we've seen what bad organizations can do just with Baker Mayfield and Sam Darnold.
Yeah, definitely. I agree with that. I think with Sam Darnold, especially seeing where he is, because I think Baker showed plenty of flashes of brilliance in Cleveland, and then he did take Cleveland to a playoff game, and
he won the game. And the only fucking reason he got shipped out is because he played injured. Don't get me started again. I went on a whole year rant about playing fucking injured, and this is why you don't do it. This is why if you're injured, you don't play injured.
Yeah, whereas Sam Darnold looked awful for the Jets, and it is just because the Jets were awful. Really bad.
Everybody looks awful for the Jets, right? Like, that's kind of the problem.
Yeah, definitely. So I think with Chicago, I think with Caleb, I agree with you. I don't think that Caleb Williams is ruined. I think he has the right temperament as a player. I think everything just needs a clean slate in Chicago. Yeah, I think once you clean slate everything,
he's not very accurate, which is scary. But that might just be because he's been beat up so much this year. Even when he's not getting pressure, he's probably still feeling pressure.
Yeah, I think he's also just completely stopped taking risks as well. I think his accuracy could be a lot of it down to making sure he doesn't throw interceptions. Like, if you actually watch Caleb Williams, like when you watch quarterbacks who are really going through it, they often throw a lot of interceptions. Caleb Williams hasn't been throwing interceptions. Yeah. I think he's not accurate because he's trying to make sure that ball doesn't get intercepted is more what he's worried about.
Trent Dilfer once said the reason that happens is because now you're trying to place the ball instead of just throwing it.
Yeah, exactly. You see it with Pat Mahomes quite a lot. He throws it into a place where he knows it's not going to get turned over. But that's not what I want from my rookie quarterback, especially when the rest of the team is shit. Play on field, play on your instincts. That's what Caleb Williams was drafted for. Caleb Williams was drafted to play on his feel and his instincts, and then you work on all the other stuff like ball placement to make sure it's not turned over. Try and get the big player. I would rather Caleb Williams be getting a few interceptions a game rather than what he's doing right now. And I think someone needs to get in his ear and just say, just let loose, man.
The Kevin O'Connell model. Take those shots and we'll live with the interceptions.
Yeah, of course. And I just think it's just let loose. We spoke about the Seahawks a bit, Jay. Where do you kind of place the Seahawks this season? We didn't really get around to that with the Vikings.
They can still make the playoffs. They play the Bears and then they play the Rams again at home. They literally still have a shot to win their division. So I don't know. I think that they're an up and down team. They threw the kitchen sink at the Vikings. You could tell with that fake punt. They threw everything they had, knowing it was a must win for them. And I feel like I'm beating up on the poor guy, but I'm not a big fan of Geno Smith. And I know he's got numbers that people can argue with, but my argument is when it comes down to win the game, do you trust Geno Smith to go win that game and put it away for you? And I don't.
To be fair to Geno in that game, he left the field with the Seahawks having the lead.
No, he didn't. He left the field by throwing fucking Theo Jackson.
Oh, yeah. Sorry, he left the field with that interception. I forgot about the final drive. That was DK Metcalf's fault, that interception entirely. I'm not the biggest fan of Geno as my starting quarterback. I do believe he should be a starting quarterback in the NFL, but I don't want him to be the starting quarterback of my team. He's one of those guys where it's like, if he's your starting quarterback, you should be looking for something else. But he's also easily one of the best 32 quarterbacks in the NFL.
With that said, I just shit all over him, and this is one of my locks of the week. Seahawks minus 3.5.
You're getting your locks of the week out there early. I nearly put this as my lock of the week as well. Jay, I don't know about you, but I think this week there's quite a lot of favorable spreads this week.
Yeah, I thought the same thing, and then I thought, I'm going to do I was like, these are going to be some good picks, and then I'm like, that just means I'm going to fucking fuck the whole thing up.
Yeah, definitely. I love the Seahawks pick for lock of the week. I nearly made it my lock of the week as well. I just think there's quite a few. The Chiefs as well. I was surprised that it was that low too. So I'm taking the Seahawks in this one as well. We've agreed on 3, which is terrifying and probably going to be bad for the two of us. I'm surprised that the Bears are getting this much love in this game. I think it's more of an indictment on what people think of the Seahawks, but the Seahawks are so up and down that they lost last week. They'll play really well this week. And if it's me, I'm giving the ball to Kenneth Gainwell like 30 times in this game and just trying to run the ball down the Bears' throat first and then take to the air when I have to, and looking for Jackson Smith from Jigba and DK Metcalf. Jay, our final segment of the week is week 17 best bets. This is where we take our best bets for any given week, and we give them out to you. We pick 3 games. Jay has already given us his first 2, which, Jay, remind us of number 1 for you.
Steelers minus 2.5 versus the Seahawks.
Yeah,
Steelers. Sorry. I looked at my other game of the week right underneath it. Chiefs minus 2.5 versus the Steelers.
Yeah, the Chiefs minus 2.5 against the Steelers. I really like that pick. We've already spoken about it. Jay, my first pick of this week is the Broncos plus 3.5 against the Cincinnati Bengals. Just a reminder to everybody, the Cincinnati Bengals have the same record as the Dallas Cowboys, like here in the way that we speak about them. That's really, really starting to get on my nerves how we speak about the Bengals in this way, but they're not a good football team all around.
I thought about this game, and then I thought at any given Sunday, Joe Burrow and that offense can go off for fucking 40 points. I don't have a problem with it, but I still don't even know who I'm picking come Sunday because, like I said, part of me really thinks Denver can win this game, but then I'm like, man, Joe Burrow and them just have one of those games. Yeah,
when I saw the Broncos were underdogs in this game, I was like, okay, yeah, I have to take this. Like the Broncos defensively are solid. They didn't have a great game last week against the Chargers.
Well, they've been solid, but they fell off lately.
Well, they fell off against the Chargers. Oh, and they did have a bad half of football against the Colts as well. But then they really fronted up against the Colts in the second half. Nick Bonito has been absolutely amazing as well. So we'll see where that goes. But the Broncos, more key to this is the Broncos have a really, really good offense, in my opinion. Like they can run the ball. They have decent wide receivers to pass the ball out to. They have a really good offensive line. And the Bengals can't play defense. The Bengals defense is terrible, possibly the worst in the league. And the Bengals coach is also not very good, possibly one of the worst in the league. So I just look at the Bengals every time and I'm like, I don't see it. Like, I don't get why they get all of this love as an all-round football team.
And that's why I think the Bengals would be the perfect spot for Vrabel. He's an Ohio guy, and they already have an offense. They need a defense, and they need a leader. And I think Vrabel would be perfect. I don't think he'll end up there. I'm not even sure they'll switch quarterbacks because of a cheap owner, or coaches because of a cheap owner. I agree with everything you said, and the only thing that made me hesitate is I just like you never know with Joe Burrow and those guys.
Yeah, Joe Burrow could come up with but like Joe Burrow could put up a 5-touchdown game, and then at that point the Broncos are fucked. So like I do get it. Like I understand. I just the Bengals as an all-round team are just not very good. Jay, remind everybody of your second best bet of the week.
Seahawks -3.5 versus the Bears.
Yeah, as we were talking about earlier, I love that pick as well. I nearly took that one myself. Jay, my second best bet of the week is the Panthers at +8 against the Buccaneers. So the Panthers are +8 over touchdown favorites. Over touchdown dogs against the Buccaneers. The Panthers just coming off a win. The Buccaneers coming off a loss. Divisional game. The Panthers have been playing everybody close apart from the Cowboys, where that was just a bad matchup for them as well. I'm surprised that this was such a big spread.
I think I'm leaning that way come Sunday too, but I didn't pick it for a lock because I know Baker and the boys need this win, so you just never know, with the playoff crunch time. But you heard in my overreactions, I think the Panthers win it, and I know it's overreactions, but I'm dead serious. I think the Panthers win the division next year.
Yeah, I'm not 100%.
They're going to make moves
sure
in the offseason and just get better than what they're playing now, and I am so impressed with them right now.
Yeah, definitely. And I think with the Panthers as well, I wouldn't be surprised if they won this game. So if you're giving me 8 points, like I'm taking that like straight away. And the way that the Bucs actually play football realistically shouldn't be blowing teams out. Now they do have a few blowouts on their record sheet, but they shouldn't actually be blowing teams out because they're like run first, like all of that. So 8 points feels like a lot to me. Jay, what is your third best pick of the week?
Chargers -4 versus the Pats.
Yeah, I love that pick, Jay. You go for it on that one as well.
We're gonna see how good Drake May is against this defense, and I'm not shitting on Drake May. That's not a shot. That's legitimately we're gonna see how good Drake May is against this defense.
Yeah, this defense, like the Broncos, actually has been one of the best all season, but is taking a slight step back over recent. weeks.
I'm going to sound like a broken record. It's because J.K. Dobbins is not there to run the ball and eat the clock and hold it down. And this whole thing is because of J.K. Dobbins' injury.
Yeah, definitely. It means they have to spend more time on the field and those kind of things as well. With their 2 tackles back, with Slater and Joe Alt back and playing really well, I do believe they'll get a semblance of a run game against that Patriots defense this week as well. So I like the 4 points that the Chargers are giving up in that game as well. I think they'll control that game. It's not the type of game that they tend to lose. Jay, my final pick of the week, I'm laughing at the fact that I've picked this. The Cowboys at +9.5 against the Philadelphia Eagles. I think 9.5 is a huge number. I think that will come down by the time that we pick them on whenever the next show's
Sunday.
By the time we pick them on Sunday, I imagine that number will come down by.
It might be Saturday. We'll figure that all out. But yeah.
Yeah, I think that we should do it on the 27th because I've got to fly back to the UK on the 28th. Which is the day of the games.
The 27th is. So
yeah, neither do I. It's that time of year where it's a real struggle. But anyway,
that's a Friday. That shouldn't be a problem. There you go, guys.
Okay,
you heard it here.
The 27th it is. We could do it actually after. We could do it straight after the same time we've done this show. Anyway, you guys don't need to know that. We'll talk in jail. Talk about that afterwards.
If you hit the notification and subscribe button, you'll find out as soon as we figure it out.
But I think this is a huge number for a Dallas Cowboys defense that is playing really well. Like, I think it's predicated on the fact that the Dallas Cowboys still can't defend against the run. Well, and Saquon Barkley's in the backfield for the Philadelphia Eagles, right? Well, hang on a sec. Like, they've just played the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, who run the ball really well, and they played fronted up against the run well in that game. They have 4 wins out of 5 coming into this game, -9.5, nearly a 10-point dog. Seems like a lot to me.
I don't mind it. I'm waiting to see what the spread is on Sunday, but I don't mind it. huge point spread in a divisional game, and you know the Cowboys want to play spoiler. So, and you know McCarthy and Zimmer want to keep their jobs, and a lot of the players have been coming out in support of Mike McCarthy. So maybe it'll be like one of those let's go win one for the Gipper games.
Yeah, definitely. That's how I feel about it. And look, I think the Eagles will probably come away from the win in that, but 9.5 just feels like a lot with the way that those two teams play. As well, it seems like a lot to me. Okay, everyone, that was our Week 16 reactions with our Week 17 best bets and the previews of the Christmas games. I hope you enjoy it. Have a very Merry Christmas. In Wales, we say Nadolig Llawen. Jay, send us out like you always do.
All right, everybody. Thanks for watching. Hit that like and subscribe. Make sure you catch all the other shows. They're off for 2 weeks, but Maddie and I will still be here pumping away. And as they say in my household, fuck off, bah humbug, and Merry Christmas.
Merry